Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 5, The Examples. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Discovery, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Discovery up to Season 5, Episode 8. Sorry, what am I talking about? Season 4, Episode 5. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video. Otherwise, some things will be spoiled for you. So, I really like this episode. I thought I was really impressed with it. I thought it was really good. It wasn't amazing. It still has some of the pitfalls that Discovery tends to have, but it's good. It's really getting me into the season. I hope the quality of episodes improve. Now, this episode was kind of more of a build setting the stage kind of episode overall. It's funny because I complained, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, perhaps both. I complained about how it was just like sort of an episodic episode that really didn't push the main theme of the season forward that well. And this episode was that as well, except it was actually really good. Whereas the other ones felt like filler, this one felt like a really good aside to like a really good sort of standalone story that also contributes to the whole a teensy bit. So I want to see more of this. If they want to, it seems like... First of all, it seems like the theme of the season with this anomaly, like, destroying shit, is, it'd be hard to stretch it out over a 13-episode season, or 12 episode, however long the season's gonna be. So, I don't want it to feel, like, stretched out, and so far it's not. Like, last two episodes kind of felt like fillers, whereas this one actually, like, do more of this. Like, this is good, because it doesn't blow through the story too fast, because you're actually focusing most of the episode on a standalone plot that's just kind of it's related to the main story because it's about an anomaly destroying a world, but it doesn't really push the main story of the anomaly forward very much. But yeah, God, this episode does a lot of stuff that I like. So, yeah, I don't even know where to begin. So basically, the anomaly is going to destroy this asteroid colony that was part of the. Now I'm blanking on their name, but they were the villains in the previous. The Chain or something? I don't know. That tells you how memorable they were to me. They were the villains of the previous season, which I thought were very mustache twirly and two-dimensional. I didn't like them. However, this is interesting because they, the Federation had to go bail them out, and then Starfleet agreed to do it, even though they were not Federation citizens. That they, Vance mentioned that Starfleet was the only one with a force capable of, affecting this kind of mass evacuation in such a short amount of time. And so, of course, Discovery goes to help with the evacuation. Now, there's a lot of things I love about it. It's interesting to me that they have I need to remember their names. That one dude, one of the background bridge guys who I think was serving as first officer at the start of the season, how he wanted to go down and take charge of the evacuation, and because he had his own personal experience and it meant a lot to him. Like, I like that. I think that was a nice touch. Even though it was a side, I still think all these characters need to be explored more, and this is a nice step in that direction. And then Burnham, of course, finds out about these examples, these prisoners who are being held in the, this place where they couldn't have can't be evacuated, and the guy who runs the colony is like, screw them, why should they be evacuated? I'm not going to share the space with them. And of course it doesn't sit right to Burnham, so she takes Booker, which I don't know why, is he a Starfleet officer? I don't know. But anyway, she takes Booker down on the mission to retrieve these prisoners, which at first seemed a bit hokey to me, but I think it made a lot more sense. And as the story progressed, I really liked it and appreciated it a lot more. So eventually, through these exciting series of exploding insects, they or like armadillo insect things, but anyway, they make their way to the prison, and then when they approach the prisoners, they find out that most of them were in there for petty shit, and they were just the examples. It makes sense because that's basically what they were. They were examples. Don't steal, don't do this, or whatever. We'll make an example out of you. And so their crimes did not warrant the kind of punishment that they were getting, but they were basically examples. So there is a lot of even modern day societies that do that have way too strict of the punishment just to try to set an example. People are like, oh, those societies have a lot less crime. Yeah, but at what cost? There's other societies like Norway, Sweden, and all that have less crime as well, and yet their sentences are extremely lenient. Some would argue too lenient. So there's a better way of doing it than this way. And so I like how they explore that in this episode. And this episode gets makes some social commentary without being too preachy, in my opinion. And I appreciate that. And I think, to be honest, Star Trek has always been about the social commentary. And I always love my social commentary in Star Trek. Discovery maybe hasn't handled it with the lightest touch. Maybe. I mean, Star Trek historically has been heavy-handed, but I would say Discovery hasn't always handled it the best. But I really love the way they handle it here. And they make a clear statement about the mistreatment of prisoners and how, and stuff like that, and just how the punishment doesn't always fit the crime, and it becomes more of a societal thing. But it was really I like the main character guy, the prisoner who spoke for all the other prisoners. He wanted to make sure that he would refuse to leave until he knew that they had an amnesty, that they had a good deal. And at first I was thinking, no, you stupid idiot, you're about to be killed by this thing, just go. And then that's kind of Burnham's reaction at first too. But then it makes more sense when you get into the weeds. It's well, if we run that right now and the anomaly net doesn't hit this planet, because you're not even sure it will hit the planet, and if it doesn't, then hey, we're free. But if we go with you, we're definitely in prison. Maybe we'd rather take our chances, and we'd rather have a 50% chance of dying or being free than 100% chance of staying incarcerated. Which was, and it did make a lot of sense. And so Burnham was able to come up with this asylum deal that would get them a Federation trial, in which case she said it was almost guaranteed that they would not be incarcerated again after that. Unless, of course, they were lying about the kind of crimes they committed, like the one guy apparently was, but of course he fessed up to it because it was never his intention to leave because he felt so guilty about the crime he committed. Which was another really, really powerful story beat that I loved. Reminded me of the character of Red from Shawshank Redemption. How when he was a much younger man that he killed someone is something that he deeply regretted. And it is reminiscent to a lot of real world life situations. And so he himself judged himself unworthy of redemption, which was really powerful. But he wanted, his whole goal was to make sure all the other prisoners got the freedom that they deserved. Again, it was so powerful. And so they did manage to get free, but the guy refused to return, and then that created a rift between Burnham and Booker. Booker was very much against this, wanted to say that screw what he's saying, screw his wishes, we should save his life anyway. But Burnham, this is kind of a character growth. This is getting to what the president said at the start about how she always has this strong desire to absolutely save everyone. I don't think it's a resolution, but it's a step on the journey. It's a continuation where she kind of fought that instinct, even though Booker actually still had it, and decided to respect his wishes in this manner and let him stay where there was a 50% chance he'd die and sure enough he actually did, and his last words were to tell the story of the murder that he committed to make amends. And it was really powerful, and how there was that thing, the family tree ball thing that he had stolen from the daughter of the man he killed, and he returned it to Burnham so Burnham could return it to her. It was a really touching story. It reminds me a bit of the episode, what's it called, Manhunt? Why am I blanking all these names? I was too tired today. Anyway, I think that's called Manhunt from season 3 of TNG. Oh no, is it called The Hunted? It's called The Hunted. Something like that. I don't know. Regardless, I gotta look this shit up. I'm curious now. But anyway, it reminds me of that episode of TNG a bit. Because it was about the mistreatment of prisoners and whatnot. And I think this one does a bit of a better job, if I'm being honest. I think, I thought it was extremely effective in that regard. So it was only tentatively related to the main story. I mean, this involves the DMA because that's what destroys the freaking asteroid colony, but it doesn't push the story of it forward anymore. For that, we go to the subplot with Stamets, and we get a new scientist. God, I can't remember his damn name. But, yeah, definitely wouldn't remember his name. But we get a new scientist character, and it looks like he's going to be a long-term character. And he's played by Aaron Wright from The Expanse. Sean Doyle is the actor's name, but as soon as I saw him, I was like, hey, it's Aaron Wright! And he's acting like a really silly, more sort of upbeat and frenetic than Aaron Wright. That Aaron Wright was a bit more proper and stuff. But it just made me think, God damn, this is such a good actor. I really love this actor. He is a good actor. He was, his turn as Aaron Wright on The Expanse was amazing, and he did such a different role here, but still like a really good job. And of course, he's a Canadian actor. I think a Toronto actor, in fact, and Discovery's filmed in Toronto, so it kind of makes sense. They had a few other Expanse actors pop up here and there, but yeah. So I'm really happy about this character going forward. And it was really interesting, the experiment that he was running with Stamets, and then Jet Reno appears yet, and we haven't seen her in a really long time. And now she's back, and she was helping with the experiment. And of course, it was causing harm to the ship, so Saru was there to oversee it and make sure it didn't cause any harm. And I like how they kept pushing him, and like, look, we trust. And Stamets is like, look, trust me, I can keep this under control. I can, handle this. Just let me do it. But Saru, had to be convinced. And eventually, it was like, okay, all right, fine, I'll let you continue because this is so important. And Stamets was like really stressing it could save like all sorts of lives, even Kaminar could be at stake. And Saru's like, all right, so I'll let you go as long as I have this kill switch, so if I think this is going too far, I can kill it. And then so they keep doing it, and then the Aaron Wright scientist guy, whatever his name is, and Stamets were so like involved and so like excited about, oh, look at all this information we're getting, oh, this is so amazing, oh, look at this is amazing, I love it. And then they were so like just drawn in not realizing that they're about to destroy the ship, and Saru's keep going, "Ah, guys!" And they're like, "No, just let us continue." And it got to the point where this close for the ship being destroyed, and Saru just killed it. And then they were all pissed off. They're like, "Oh, come on! Why'd you kill it now?" And like Jet Reno's response was, she said something like, "This is a huge statement because this happens a lot or something, but this is the closest you've ever come to destroying the ship." And I think that's when it finally dawned on Stamets, like, exactly what almost just happened, because he was so, like, enveloped and just involved and just wanting to find answers for this anomaly that he didn't realize that how close it came to death. And I really love that stuff. So we do learn a few things about the DMA. Well, it's speculated, and I think we could probably take the speculation as fact, that the DMA is artificially constructed. That it was definitely created by someone. Now, that is a bit iffy. I think I heard some people saying that they would prefer if this was a natural occurring and not created by something, but it depends on who it was. And of course, we got some Easter eggs, some name drops of previous Star Trek aliens. They said the Metrons, which were the ones that appeared in the episode Arena, I believe, that forced the Gorn and Kirk to fight on the planet, because we're the Metrons. Anyway, from the original series. And they mentioned the Iconians, the surviving members of the Iconian race. Now, this is a new revelation, because in canon previous to this, if I'm not mistaken, the Iconians were thought to be extinct. Now, there was a lot of B-canon, such as novels and games and stuff, that supposed that the Iconians, some of them survived and they were still around, but this is the first time it ever is confirmed by canon, actual canon, that the Iconians were actually, there's still some around, which is news to me. So that opens up some storytelling opportunities there. And then they said, they even mentioned the Q Continuum, but they've ruled them out because they said they hadn't had contact with them for 600 years, which that's an interesting revelation as well, that there's no contact with the Q for 600 years. And it doesn't seem like their style, and he's absolutely right. So I just wanted to interject here in the editing process that there was another species that Admiral Vance mentioned, and that was the Nassine. I did not recognize this. I had to look it up, and apparently it is referring to the Caretaker. The Caretaker's race from Voyager, that flung Voyager to the Delta Quadrant. Now that's an interesting little Easter egg to drop. Also, little screenshot we got at the start of the episode shows Stamets looking at a map that's labeled with a lot of planetary systems or whatever, and it's chocked full of Easter eggs. And I took the time to look most of them up. Now, most of them are very obvious. You got Earth, you got Andoria, you got Navarre, which is Vulcan now. You got Denobula, which is where the Denobulians are. This is the first mention of Denobulians since Enterprise. And then there's Benzar. You got the Benzites that that had that mass to breathe, who were in TNG. Bolazar, which is, of course, the Bolians. Teller, which is where the Tellarites are from. Wolf 359, of course, the epic Borg battle in Best of Both Worlds. Nausicaa, where the Nausicans are from. And Orion, of course, where the Orions are from. You also had some deeper cuts. You got Zatar from the TOS episode Lights of Zatar. Akali, which apparently was that one world that appeared in that episode, Civilization in Enterprise, where Archer had an encounter with a pre-warp civilization and ended up kissing a hot chick. It does make me wonder if they are now In this century, they're probably post-warp and probably part of the interstellar community. Then there's Deveron. I remember that off the top of my head from All Good Things because he always talked about, well, we gotta go to the Deveron system, That's where the anti-time anomaly was. And there's Qualar 2, which I also called that off the top of my head because that was mentioned Unification. That's where Worf was singing Klingon opera with that six-arm lady, and they also visit us in Lower Decks later on. And there's Nelvana, another one I caught off the top of my head because I remember that from the episode The Defector, because that's where the Defector thought the Romulans were building their secret base, and I remember Picard saying, Nelvana 3! That's not a base, it's a trap! And then there's Turoth, which I did not recognize, which is apparently the planet from Desert Crossing, that horrible episode of Enterprise where Archer and Trip got stuck on a desert planet. And then there's Mabu, which apparently was that moon in Power Play. That's really deep cut where Troy, Data, and O'Brien got taken over by weird thingies. Now those are the major ones. A lot of these other ones were just, apparently after I looked them up, they're just things that were mentioned offhand. Some of them throughout several Star Trek series, but we never actually seen them. Like Memory Alpha is known to have a Federation like library there, and there's a couple others. Like Vega is known to have the Vega colonies, one of the first human colonies that was mentioned throughout a lot of Star Trek iterations. And there's other ones that were just, apparently a lot were planets that were either seen or mentioned in the episode Gambit. So I guess they really liked that episode. But anyway, that's enough for the silly Easter eggs. Now, Aaron Wright, I keep calling him that, but the scientist dude, Aaron Wright, was saying that he doesn't think it's the Metrons or Lyconians or any of those, that he thinks it's something. Well, he said, it's a god, but most of those aliens they named are like god-like anyway, like the Q and the Metrons. But whatever, I don't know. Yes, they got to be careful of the fact that it is someone who created this. Like, there needs to be a decent answer. It can't be something like, I don't know. I can see this going wrong in many ways if it's not handled with care. Like if it was the Quat Mulat or the Romulans or the Cardassians or some bullshit like that. And they said it existed outside of time as well. To me, it might even be more interesting if we're introduced to... I hope it's not that weird, like, demon AI bullshit from Picard. Like, that would be dumb. But it would almost be more interesting to me if this was something that they're just introducing. Something that's not been established. But I don't know. So that was a very interesting revelation. And, of course... Stamets and Aaron Wright were trying to run those experiments to try to see just how it's created and how it can move and stuff like that. So it's a nice little piece in the puzzle, which gives us some tantalizing information, but not too much to completely blow the story. So I really, and I love this new character of the scientist guy, and I hope he sticks around. And he has a very he's very quirky and kind of an asshole, but in a different way than Stamets. Like, I love the way he got Saru to just yell at him and go "Rah!" And it looks like they enhanced his yell to make it sound more like beast-like and alien-like, and like how Aaron Wright was just like, oh, good. That was a cool scene. I really like this guy. Anyway, then we got some other stuff with Culber being the ship's counselor and having his doubts about doing his job. So I think they've mentioned in previous episodes that he's the ship counselor, but when did this happen? How did this happen? Did he have education? Did he have training? I thought he was just good with people. How does that make him the ship's counselor? And when did this happen? Why did this happen? I don't know. And so this whole storyline, I think is kind of dumb, to be honest. But I did like the character beats they were hitting. I like how they got David Cronenberg to come back and just flat out like lay some hard truths down on him. Look, you died, and you're trying to do this stuff that makes you feel alive. And then they juxtaposed him and Stamets, how they always have to. They're way too involved with their work, and that's their downfall. And so that scene between them was really nice as well. So So overall, I thought this episode was really, really effective. Now, I did mention there were some pitfalls that Discovery kind of falls into all the time. Part of that, and I talked about this a lot, is being a bit too sentimental. I think Burnham was like nearly in tears on the planet, and they were playing the sad music. As much as I did love the whole prison storyline aspect, they were playing it too heavily with the sentimentality. They need to tone that shit down. And just that in general, and some other Discoveryisms that I'm not even thinking of. But overall, I did really enjoy this episode. So my rating for the examples out of 10, I'm going to give this an 8. Extremely good. This close to giving it a 9, but I don't know, some of that overly sentimentality kind of ruins it for me. It doesn't really quite reach 9-ness to me. It's almost there, but I will say that this is definitely my favorite episode of this show, of the season so far, even though it's only been 5. But this is definitely my favorite of the season so far, and I hope it gets better from here. So anyway, that is it for my review of latest episode of Discovery. I shall be back, of course, every week to cover Discovery, as well as covering all things Star Trek and The Expanse, Star Wars, Clone Wars, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.